What's going on, everyone? With the upcoming Defenders of Etheria, I have an opportunity to sit down with Chromatic Games' Guille and Augi and
Cheers.
talk a little bit about what's to come. What's going on there, guys?
Hello, hello. Always good to be
What's
in your
up?
presence.
I know that Chromatic wants to create a separate genre of game, and with that is also going to come a new company. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, we're spinning off a new studio to focus on games outside of tower defense, which won't affect DD1 or DD2 at all. Like Chromatic will be supporting DD1 and DD2 for the foreseeable future. Those games are loved. People still love them, play them. We still love them. People still play them. But a group of devs within our studio wanted to work on something new and something different. And the best way of doing that within a company is to spin them off so they can have creative freedom to do what they want and not be interfered by like old stuff, old baggage. So yeah, we are spinning off a new studio called Community Made Games, and their focus is to focus on fun, entertaining indie games outside the tower defense genre. And this is it. This is their first title.
Creative freedom really is a key word here, right? One thing that I learned early on coming into the industry was that people move a lot. Sometimes you're at a studio for 2, 3, 4 years, and before you know it, they're out the door. Not because they don't like the place, not because they don't like what they did. It's just that they want to try something new. They want to attempt a different style of game. And often,
Sure.
indie studios can just rebrand themselves. And, I always joke and say, well, we couldn't tomorrow just say, hey, we want to compete with, GTA or do Gran Turismo, and people will be like, what does that mean, right? And we're seeing a little bit of that in the community now that we talked about DOE. So this is what would make sense. At the same time, as Augie was saying, we want to give our talent creative freedom on other games, other genres, other expansions, just new ventures for everybody. But simultaneously, we want to give peace of mind to our community that we're not messing with the Dungeon Defenders franchise as it is. We have a lot of support still for our legacy games, and we want to keep it that way.
Okay. Well, I definitely have some more questions for you guys upcoming on that
Bring 'em on,
topic.
Juice. Bring 'em on.
But let's jump into Defenders of Etheria. Now, when you all first announced it, like I took it in as it's going to be kind of like a survivors like roguelite game, which I personally love survivors like games. They're just incredibly addicting. However, it was explained to me, or it was not actually told directly to me, but a comment that I saw one of the developers talking to someone else about was that the game actually feels more of an ARPG than an actual survivors like an ARPG maybe with survivors like match play, or which of those two genres. Obviously you're creating a brand new product, but of those two genres, which one do you feel like it leans more heavily towards?
And that sounds cool, right? Like the little bits and pieces that you heard
I love
throughout.
them both. I mean, I play a lot of ARPGs and I play a lot of survivors like games. So there isn't really, there's some close ones, but there's not really a game out that really blends both of those genres. And they seem like, as far as gameplay wise, they seem like they kind of go together really well.
Right. Well, I think Augie sort of touched based on this in one single line on the previous question where he talked about creative freedom. Yes, we have a robust idea of what this game is going to be like. There were multiple offerings. We often have pitches going on internally, and when we heard this, Augie was the first one that stood out and said, "Hey, this sounds really fun to me." And but going back to creative freedom, we want to give this team, the team that is going to be part of this new studio, the studio that's going to venture outside the Dungeon Defenders realm as we've known it these years, to be able to create and put together what they consider to be something good, fun, and fresh. We only had one ask, and our ask was just make it fun.
Absolutely. I also want to add, everyone in this new spin-off studio came from the community mod team. I mean, the name says it in itself. Like IDHC, a lot of his buddies that are working on this new project, they came from the Dungeon Defenders community mod team. There really is it. If you talk about true believers, it's these group of amazing devs. And now me and Guille, we all talk about that. We are just their biggest cheerleaders. We're just cheering them on, adding support, trying to help however we can, trying to bridge gaps and take down barriers. And I don't ever want to like get in their way. Like we're just their biggest cheerleaders, and
right.
they do everything.
If anything, is to clear the path so they can do what they want to do, which is make new games, right?
Absolutely. Well, what made you guys reach outside? Obviously Dungeon Defenders is an action defense game, really genre defining from the very, very beginning. What made you all want to go outside of that genre?
In some way, I call it sanity check. As I was telling you earlier, people move a lot, right? And we've had our fair share of that through the years. We've had great talent that has left to other studios just because they wanted to do something different, just because they wanted to try some new experiences, just because they wanted to be part of other teams. And with lots of them, I personally still have conversations with. I know he still chats with a lot of people that have been part of our internal family, the Chromatic Games family, and even Trendy Entertainment even before me, right? And so we wanted to create this new space that it's going to allow our talent to grow internally without having to flee the domain that is not just that is our franchise, that is not just Chromatic Games, right? So with this, they'd be able to say, look, I've actually spent 2 years here, 3 years, now I want to do something completely different. And before they say, hey, I'm gonna have to go to another studio, it's like, whoa, how about you bring those fresh ideas, we'll support them, here's a space where you can do it, and allow to continue to have this family you have.
And also, this gives us an opportunity of bringing new people into the franchise, like people that normally wouldn't think about tower defense, RPG, or Dungeon Defenders. Like this enables us to reach out and bring in a new audience into the community of Dungeon Defenders. And I think it'll be fun. It comes down to that. Like when the idea was pitched and we looked at what was possible, and we were like, yeah, this could be a really fun game. Let's give this a shot. Let's go. It's time to go. Let's go.
Yeah, there's many reasons why we're doing this, and it just made the most sense from every angle that we saw. And trust me, we spent a lot of weeks, a lot of nights, a lot of weekends just thinking about these things. But we do this because we love it. This is a lifestyle. This is not a job for us. So we're constantly thinking, what is the next thing? What could we do to just to beef up our franchise? And this just made all the sense for us.
That actually kind of leads into the next question. With it's been all Dungeon Defenders all the time since the very beginning.
Right.
What's the process even to pick out? Say okay, I want time to stop cooking hamburgers and let's work on BLTs. I mean, how do you pick that next game or that next genre? Like, what was your process?
Avocado toast, that would have been too far. Well, we have multiple game pitches. Augie's been doing this way before me. So, Augie, why don't you give an answer?
I mean, internally, once in a while, we'll have pitch idea events within the company, and groups of devs within Chromatic will pitch ideas, and we'll have like 4 or 5 different pitches and ideas. We'll listen to them all. We'll read the design docs, and by the end, we'll get a consensus of like, this probably will do well, and be fun to make and is feasible. And this is the result of it. And
Right.
we just can't wait to show everyone.
Yeah, and there are definitely some more pivotal moments, right? In a year, or at the end of a project, or when we're after a set amount of launches, where we might put more attention to this kind of ideas and whatnot. But constantly we're getting, even if we're not organizing a pitch competition, our talent is, vastly creative. They're always sending ideas. Hey, have you heard of this new game? Have you thought of this thing? Hey, I have an idea about this, blah blah blah. And we're constantly listening. It's just a matter of, does it meet the criteria, right? Is it an idea that we could do within a time frame that would allow us to pursue, right? Or is this a 10-year kind of game that we may possibly would need to hire 200 more people? So there's a ton of great ideas. Some are just feasible for us today, right? At our studio size today. And some are, okay, maybe let's put this a little bit later down the road so that we can explore it when the time comes. The time's right.
All right. Now, I gotta say, my audience would not be happy with me if I don't get into some of the dirty questions.
Ooh, okay.
So I gotta put you all on the spot here. Now, from the second Defenders of Etheria was announced, there's two huge comments and questions that come up.
I think I know where this is heading.
One of them is going to be, why are you not making Dungeon Defenders 3? And then the other one would be, why not just update Dungeon Defenders 2 to Unreal 5, get it working with a new back-end system? This is what the current Dungeon Defenders player base seems to want the most. Why not focus on those two items?
Right. Well, I will tell you that through the last years, we're talking about 5 years, a bit more. I joined at the end of 2018. So it's been 7 years, but we'll probably say 5 to 6 years. There's a lot of learning that we've done as a whole. This is just, I'm just telling you my side of it, but we've definitely learned as a company many things. One thing it's clear for me, DD3 needs to be done right? And it needs to be done right from the get-go. So this means no rushing into anything, having the right resources to allocate time and talent to get it done the way that it should be. And so we're in this process of, instead of rushing into something, trying to beef up our studio, right? Generating new audiences, creating new titles, exploring new ventures, new genres, right? So that's really where we're focusing at the moment, so that at a later point, we have the right recipe to come into what would be a DD3.
Okay.
Yeah. To add to that, like DD3 would have to usurp DD1 and DD2. And that is no small feat. Like that would be a 3 to 5 year project, a team of 50 plus. And we'll get there one day. But right now, let's take our baby steps and launch something fun and see where that takes us.
How about on the, obviously one thing that you can say about the player base for every Dungeon Defenders game is they're very passionate about their game and they love the games. We
would never deny that.
There's a lot of dedication to DD1, to DD2. I know it's, relatively separate groups of folks. Some players play them all. What could you say about the Dungeon Defenders 2 aspect? Like, I know it's been answered before. However, it keeps coming up, and I think the community has the impression that, you press a button and DD2 goes to Unreal 5.
Yeah, so it couldn't be any further from the truth. The reality is the engine version that Dungeon Defender 2 runs on, much like DD1 does, it's a highly customized version of Unreal 3. Now, if I was to just say, hey, it's an Unreal 3 engine, porting from Unreal 3 to Unreal 4 even was like a huge thing that at the moment we couldn't do. So from there to UE5, it's quite complex, but that would be starting from 0. We're not at 0. Our engine is so highly customized that it is at negative 1,000. We would have to unravel and open so many Pandora boxes so that we could get code, a thing that we could then transfer to Unreal 5. It is definitely not a drag and drop. Trust me, as a business, we would want to do that because it's what everybody's been asking for. But it would just halt production and everything else for a long amount of time. Actually, I would say an unknown amount of time. And now DD2 is at a much better place. But in the past, like even before the end of 2024, actually, I'm sorry, it was by the end of 2023, we were having a lot of problems with DD2. So our IT team and our high engineers were really working on how to get DD2 afloat, because you'll remember this. We were getting drops here and there. Some of the systems that we were using, some of the software we were using, they were considered legacy. And so there were a lot of things that were just sort of going down on their own. And we had to do a lot of updating, a lot of taking a look under the hood to get things in a stable place. And at that point, with all those unknowns, to even think of, hey, let's stop everything that we're doing and let's untangle all this mangle and bring it to UE5, that was just not possible. It just couldn't be in the books. Trust us, we would love to do it. We would have loved to have done that a couple of years ago, but it wasn't feasible. It doesn't mean that it won't be feasible at some point. He says right now, the task at hand was just very, very complex. Augie, you have anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like one good thing I'd like to say is we spent the last 2 years stabilizing DD2's backend infrastructure, right. And that was a monumental task, but it was done. And that ensures us the life of DD2 for a decade to come. So that game still has a long life in front of it. It's all about like what are the cost benefits of updating to, let's say, Unreal 5. And what we have with Unreal 3, our custom version of Unreal 3 works. You know, it's a fun game. It works. Sure, you know, ray tracing would have been cool and blah, blah, blah. But would it really improve people's lives that much better by having not only a game engine that would cost a lot of money to upgrade, but you risk introducing like a whole new set of bugs. And also Unreal 5 has a huge amount of, let's say, overhead, like CPU overhead, that your computer would have to crunch just to run it. So we would actually cut a lot of our community base because they would have to upgrade the computers, blah, blah, blah. It was just, the cost benefits were just not there to do a switch like that. And people still are enjoying what they have with our Unreal 3 engine that we use. And I don't want to potentially mess up a good thing.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, and again, we're not saying no for the future. It's just that at this time, and it's also one of those things that, as I was saying, the cost benefit, it really weighted heavily on one side, because this could potentially meant we mess it up for everybody and there's just no DD2, right? And sure. we didn't want to do that. We didn't want to create that for anybody.
Okay. And that kind of leads me into my next question too. You know, obviously a new project. You all are, you know, full speed ahead on the new project. But what does this mean for the development, the existing and upcoming development of Dungeon Defenders 1 and Dungeon Defenders 2?
Mm-hmm. Do you want to get started?
No, I'm excited to say, like, DD1 and DD2 will have years of life in them. They have their own dedicated teams working on content, updates, new game modes. Both DD1 and DD2 will have years of life to them. And I can't wait to see what they come up with over the next few years.
Right. So, I'll add two things to that. The very first one, proofs in the pudding, there's a new DD2 launch coming out very soon. So there's that. And number two, linking back to the original reasoning of why we're doing this new studio, right? We want to answer that clearly by saying, hey, we're not messing with DD1. We're not messing with DD2. They have their own teams. They have their own development. Those wheels will continue to turn. We're simply adding another wheel to the truck, right?
Okay. Alrighty. And then there's a couple more of the popular community type questions. One of the things that came up right away when DOE was announced was, you mentioned that there would be a Kickstarter launch. There was some comments of folks saying, hey, I backed DDA on Kickstarter. I'm not sure if I'm comfortable backing DOE on Kickstarter. What would be or what would you say to folks that brought that to you?
I mean, that's definitely a fair question. I think a good question from everybody, especially from the backers of said project. Number one, honestly, I would say we wanted to achieve a lot with it, and sometimes wanting to do too many things. There was a lot of excitement on our end, and we had a much bigger team, so we assumed we could have achieved or that we were going to be able to achieve a lot of things quickly, and that wasn't the case. We definitely stumbled with quite a few things, a few of our own wrong decisions with the engine, for example, the UE4. While it was a newer engine, it still proved to have its own limitations. And we were also bringing some things over that didn't want to play nicely with other systems. And so that created certain uncertainty and some frustrations internally as well. I will say that I was particularly highly happy about bringing into Nintendo. Nintendo is a console that I grew up with. I think we're the three of us here in the same age group. Like I remember, throwing my backpack back from school. It's just, I wanted to turn that thing on and just be there for hours. And so the idea of having our game in Nintendo was huge. But there was a cost to that, right? There was a lot of stress bringing such an intense, resource-heavy game into Nintendo that put a lot of stress into our engineering team, and unfortunately, it wasn't as fruitful as we had thought for it to be. And it was a bit of a morale change after that. We still went ahead and tried to accomplish all the things that we set out to do. A few things we just couldn't do, but a lot of those things, I know he was dead on. Like every week, I remember he's like, "Hey, how about split screen? How about split screen?" It's like one of those things that I wish we could do ourselves, because it's like we really wanted to replicate that couch co-op experience. But like I said, we stumble here and there. But I will want to clarify one thing, and I would ask the community to please to really look back and see all the support that we did give the game. I've seen a lot of comments recently when we announced DOE that said, "Oh, like you guys started this DDA and then shortly abandoned them." I've seen at least one comment that says like, a few months later you abandoned it. So we announced DDA on 2019, right? And 2020 the game was out. And it's not like we support it for 3 months or 6 or a year or 2 or 3. We've supported DDA for 4+ years, and we've tried in a vast amount of things. In the beginning, everybody would talk about DDA. It's like, "Oh, but it doesn't have as much content as DD1." And I was like, "Well, surely DD1's been out for a decade." We wanted to get there. But I think a lot of little things played into this, and I would just want to ask the community to really, with a hand on their chest, look back, and we really supported the game as much as we could. So yes, this is a different offering, though. I will say, DOE, it's in a different league. Just looking at the price, right? When we launched DDA, it was a much steeper price. So look at DOE. DOE is a sub $10 game. We actually want to back a lot of fun in there, and we think it's well worth over $10. But sort of we want to make up for what we did with DDA, and we want to bring that price down. And we hope that everybody is going to or be willing to give it a shot. But at the same time, we know it's also a different genre, so it will have its own audience.
Sure.
But of course, we would love to see as many people from the franchise supported, because this support goes beyond just the game. It's the support for all of the projects and all the things that we want to do a future with within the studios.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that at $10. It's going to be a fun game and worth a shot. Let's go with that.
Alrighty.
So,
And then I've got one more kind of community-oriented question, and this is a comment that, I mean, I've seen this exact question and comment for 10 years. It's, you know, it's been a long time, literally thousands of times. And that is, you know, Dungeon Defenders 1. Of course, Dungeon Defenders is still such a loved game. You know, it's got a very, very active community.
Yeah.
One of the things over the years with Dungeon Defenders is it became two different games, where the console version versus the PC version, of course, the community development team, and then when Chromatic came to be, started doing more official development to Dungeon Defenders 1. But what is the thought on possibly ever doing a true Dungeon Defenders 1 remake that would allow like current gen consoles? Because I know there's just, you know, well, you all know more than I would know, but there's an enormous amount of Xbox and PlayStation players that played Dungeon Defenders 1 back in the day. I mean, in the millions.
Well,
what is the thought on a true Dungeon Defenders 1 remake that would work on everything that runs today as far as PC, Xbox, and PlayStation?
Well, funny you ask. But I think this is probably a question that we should revisit later this year.
Oh, man. You got me a little excited now. What the hell?
Stay tuned.
Because let me tell you something. I have asked this question to 10 different Chromatic or Trendy employees over the last decade.
Not to me, not to others.
That is...
we hear. We honestly, we have both ears on the community day in and day out. At times we, you know, we've been advised not to mingle too much, or not to answer all the time, but this is a year where we want to be ourselves. And if you know Augie, if you know me, we're chatty, and we like to be true to what we are. And so this year we said, hey, let's just be us. Let's stop a little bit with the, you know, with what everybody thinks is right, or what everybody thinks should be the best thing. And I, for one, love talking with a community to get that sense of people that love the franchise just as much as we do. And so, yeah, to your question, I think food for thought.
Well, I mean, just that little teaser, that little tidbit alone has got me a little excited. But let's jump back into it. Defenders of Etheria. That's what's coming. That's what's going to be on the way to us. So, looking into Defenders of Etheria for launch, is there a goal as far as like how many playable characters there'll be?
Yeah, of course. So the 4 OG, that's always been the standard, and I guess up to that point we had discussions on, do we want to keep it the same way, right? So yes, we will include those 4 OGs, but we're going to bring an extra character that's going to be joining the force. So at launch we want to have 5 characters.
I think we got the teaser of that already.
Yep, you do. So I'm not sure if everybody's seeing it, so that's why
the prince is all grown up, huh?
Yes, exactly. You know, there's we've replayed the little trailer. There's an intro right on DD2 about the little prince and whatnot, and I love it. I love, because it adds some lore into this project, and it's really cool to see it coming together and materializing, you know, within DOE.
All right. Now, obviously you mentioned this will be a retail game. You purchase the game, but moving forward to continue to give support to a game, obviously there's got to be some sort of monetization. What will the monetization model, or do you have a plan for the monetization model for DOE, and what will it look like?
Well, right now, it's going to be a retail game under $10, and we'll just have to see if people are continuing to play the game and loving it like they did with DD1. Well, we'll keep it alive. We'll keep it going. But there's no guarantees. We'll see how well it does. If it continues to do well, we'll keep on supporting it. If it does fall off, then we move on to the next game. So we'll see. It's really up to the community.
More than no guarantees, I would probably say we just don't want to overpromise, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
But we're definitely gearing towards something that if it catches on, if the community finds fun and want to continue playing with it, and then we'll be ready to allocate resources for that continuous development.
Okay. Now, as far as I know there's been different like DD2 had a alpha stage and then a early access stage. DDA, of course, had the smaller alpha test and then a small early access stage. Will there be any sort of like public beta testing or an early access for DOE? Will it launch as an early access, or will there be any sort of like development builds that players could jump in and get a look at the game?
I'll let you answer this one, Augie.
Yeah, so definitely if you back the Kickstarter, you'll be given a sneak peek into the alphas and the betas of this game. It's interesting you talk about early access. Nowadays, early access is basically a launch. Call it what it is.
Yep.
It's just called early access. It's basically a launch. The level you have to reach to even do an early access, it's basically a launch. The question is, are you allowed a sneak peek before an alpha or a beta? And we'll enable that with people that support the Kickstarter.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And there's already a playable build we play in the office, and it's fun. It's fun. So it'll be worth, and the discounts and the stuff you get with the Kickstarter, it'll be worth your while. So
and I'll repeat here, we're talking about a very different price point, right? So this is really just we wanted to make this game accessible to everybody and make it inexpensive. So we're talking about sub $10 here.
Okay. And then the biggest question, it's the last question I have for you all, but it's the one everybody always wants to know. When is there a goal or a launch window that you're comfortable talking about at this point?
Yeah. So again, learning from past experiences, instead of giving you the shortest amount, I'm going to give you the longest, right? So we definitely going to have this game out this year. That's the longest amount of time. By the end of the year, I would say would be the longest. But don't be surprised if it drops a little bit sooner than that. But I think we're going at a good speed. We have an internal time frame for what we wanted the game to be out by. We are hitting our milestones, and so everything indicates that possibly we're going to be delivering before that. But again, we want to be conscious this time around. We don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. We want to do the exact opposite. So I would say by end of year.
Okay. I mean, I personally, obviously, I'm a huge fan of Dungeon Defenders games, and then just trendy and chromatic games in general. So, it's kind of one of those mixed emotions. I want it tomorrow, but on the same note,
you and I both.
on the same note, I do want to, when I get my hands on it, I want it to be a finished product. I want it to be like a full featured product. So, I mean, although I would love to play it tomorrow, I also want to, I want to have that complete experience when it launches. Everybody will hate me for saying it, but don't rush it. Don't rush it. Take your time.
Well, thank you for sharing the sentiment.
Make sure make sure everyone there is happy with it, because you know, I'll be one of the first people to play the game, and then
You surely will.
I'll be one of the first people to complain about it too, if it
You
feels
surely
like
will,
it's
as
not a
you
finished
should.
product.
Well, it links with passion, right? When you're passionate about anything, you want it to be the best version that you can be. And I would not want to end this podcast interview, I'm not sure what to call it, without saying two things. Number one, I'm a huge fan of yours, and
I appreciate it.
I'm really thankful for what you do, not just for the community, but for us, the developers as well. Oftentimes, you have the right words to describe um, things that we've in the past maybe have failed to look or we've looked over. And so it's really nice to have someone like you that is so dedicated to the game, to the games, but also to the franchise, to the team itself, and to members specifically in the community. So thank you immensely for all that you've done and that I know you will continue to do because your passion is there.
Oh, there's no doubt. No doubt. I wake up every day ready to go.
Yeah,
Well,
cheers with water, but cheers it is.
Well, that is all I had for you guys today. I appreciate guys taking the time to join me and get some of these questions out there. You know, I get quite a few of them. And
this has been
one last thing.
Yeah, go for it. I wanted to say one more
last thing.
But you go here.
And we haven't announced this yet, but I'm just going to announce it.
Whoa. Okay.
So eventually, it won't happen on day one of launch. It'll happen maybe a year after DOE launches. But we're porting all the content from DD1, all the content from DD2, all the content from DDA, all the content that's going to DOE. We're porting that into Unreal 5, and all the content we're eventually gonna release that to the CDT team, the community dev team, and allow the community to play with it. Definitely all the content, all the code. Well, Epic has rules about what code you can release or not, and you know that we're bounded by what Epic Games allows us to release. But definitely the content, the models, the heroes, all that fun stuff, the community will be able to play with and build fun stuff for this franchise that is Dungeon Defenders. And I can't wait till what they'll do with all this content. They will be swimming in content and having a blast in the ball. So I can't wait to see.
That sounds like fun.
No time for that because obviously we're ultra busy, but it is something that we want to do, and it's a token of appreciation to everybody that's stuck around for all the years, and you know, if maybe they can do the things that we didn't get a chance to do, I think would be fantastic. And the last thing that I wanted to say, because I did tell you I wanted to say two things and I forgot about the second one, but I remember now. This has been highly enjoyable. I feel there's no reason for this to be the last one. So if you're up to it, we'll be more than happy to every now and then answer a few questions from the community, some questions from you, and just get to talk, man. We're nothing more than two other dudes that like games and love life, and it's ultra nice to chat.
Oh, for sure. Well, I do appreciate it, and I'll definitely be looking forward to getting together with you guys in the future and chatting a little bit more. I'm sure we'll have lots of questions that come up over the coming weeks, and yeah, looking forward to it. So thanks again, you guys. Appreciate the time, and yeah, until next time, we'll see you all then.
See you, Juice.
Cheers.